A few minutes after 5:30, it's 5:34, so I'll go ahead and call the finance meeting to order. Thank you for everybody for coming out. I see Eric Martin's in the audience. I feel like having been on the Parks Board for so long, I need Jeff up here to give me an LN rundown on the week's sports. But, you know, Jeff's not here, so we'll just jump right into the agenda. Some of these items are a little bit longer than others, so I want to start with the ones that I think we can really knock out tonight and get completed, because there's a few of these that are more time sensitive than others. So we're going to jump down to agenda item number 5, proposal number 5, which is appropriating additional funds and amending the 2022 budget with respect to the general fund. And Chief Vitalis, I believe this is the one that you proposed and are requesting additional appropriation for. Would you like to give an overview of that, of what the different items are? I know you were probably thinking you had a half hour till we got to you, but I know you sent the email out and I made copies for everybody.
I sent email, I also put a copy in everybody's box.
Oh, thank you.
I know sometimes there's issues with email and I want to make sure everybody got it. That first item down there, the Dea Lock Boxes. Thanks for giving me a chance to explain, because a lot of times you can't put everything in an email. We work underneath the medical director's license for narcotics, and now we no longer, we still work underneath the doctor's license, but we do not work, we will not be working under his license for narcotics. So we will be having our own DEA number, and when you have that, you have to have these lock boxes that are these will be like a thumbprint with like your last four. So if the DEA ever comes in, it will tell you who went in there, what day it was, what's on the truck, what's not on the truck. It's very detailed. And I got involved probably about 15 years ago with a case where we had some trustee workers in, some of our drugs got in. Nobody wants to go through a DEA thing, but the bottom line with this is that we have to have those locks or these boxes. They were a little bit late with the state getting this out, but this one we don't really have any choice, because if we have to operate ALS in the city, there's certain drugs you have to carry, and if we carry those drugs, we have to have a way to lock them up. The fire hose replacement, we do annual hose testing every year, and we try to keep these costs down. So it's been done in-house for several years. We found several sections of hose that were giving way, so they have to be under pressure for so long. And so we made the decision for liability and safety of the firefighters, anything that was older than 10 years old, we discard all our hose, whether it's 3-inch, 5-inch, or whatever, we've just discarded. In the past, we were just cutting them, making the section shorter, and putting couplings back on them. The problem with that is when they're laying out from an engine and they know a section's 50 foot or 100 foot, they know exactly how many you're laying out. When you start cutting those off, your 100 foot now may be 70. It's hard to gauge. And if one section hose breaks, it's very evident that the rest of the hose probably is along those same lines. So we had hose dated back to the 70s and 80s because we marked the hose with stencil. So that's why we made the decision, just to keep everybody safe, that we got rid of everything that was older than 2010. The painting at Station 37, the station's over 20 years old, has not been painted, as well as the paving. We have band-aided that station with holes, especially in the front. And when we're talking about paving, everything, but there's a cement section that was done not too long ago, and those should be in all the stations. The pad should be cement, because that's the same reason, like when you're at the gas station, very seldom do you see an asphalt. You'll see cement because of the gasoline and oil products eat up the tar, and it kind of like melts the tar. So that's kind of an overview, and I'll be more than happy to answer any of these questions. And and like I said, two of the major things here was like the DA stuff, because that and the hose, I mean, they're all important, but those things came about that we're kind of, our backs are against the wall because it's the safety and those drugs, you know, to be responsible for those drugs. And EMS chief is on that list as well as mine. So I don't think any of you would want to take that liability without the proper locks they suggest that we have for these narcotics.
Okay. Any questions for Chief Vitalis?
Yes, I have one.
Please.
The DEA lock boxes, is there any maintenance to them?
Maintenance as far, yeah. So the initial setup, once they're initially set up with everybody's credentialing in there, we can't even tinker with those things because they're when those are put in, it's like your thumbprint and it's the last 4 of your social. So even if they come in to do an audit, they can pull up on the computer and find out what's on that truck. And so that would be, we not only have to keep the ambulances and the engine, all the apparatus, but we have to have a place to lock the stuff up on station. That's why the cost is what you're looking at.
Okay, thank you.
Got a couple follow-ups then. And on these boxes, is that, so these are storing drugs that are for your emergency personnel, not necessarily things that somebody's turned in?
No, the things that are turned in, those boxes are still like at the police station where people can turn in. Those are basically your home drugs that they don't know how to dispose of. These are drugs that are new that we would administer. And it's more of the narcotic stuff that we have to keep under lock and key.
Sure. And just so everybody knows, I think we all know where Station 37 is, but for the public, could you?
4902 North German Church.
Okay.
Station 37 out there, just on German Church. It's just south of 56th Street.
Is that like by Winding Ridge?
Sorry?
Is that the one by Winding Ridge?
Yes, just past, yes, going south past Wendy's and all that. It's on the west side of the street.
Last question.
Sure.
Fire hole replacement, is it throughout the whole, is my mic on? Is it throughout the whole, all the firehouses, or is it a particular one?
So when we do the hose testing, it's done by apparatus, and then we also have some sections on the in racks at the firehouse. So if a piece of hose gets damaged, you can have a brand new section that gets damaged on the fire scene. So what we have is they go back to the station, take that piece off the apparatus, and so it includes both what's on the apparatus and some of the hoses on the racks at the stations. You always have to have some for replacement in case something happens. Because by the time you order a new hose right now, you're anywhere from 14, 15, 16 weeks if you can get it then, just because of the supply on everything.
All right, thank you.
All right, if there are no further questions, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the full council.
I'll second.
We need the motion
Oh,
first.
sorry. Sorry. I was making a motion to second your motion, sorry. I don't know how that goes. I was just agreeing. I was agreeing.
Lauren,
job.
she has made the motion. Can we have a second?
Wait, what? Well, you made the motion, right?
No,
he
I
asked for
cannot.
motion.
Oh, I'll make the motion.
There we go.
I'm sorry.
I will second it.
And Councilor Whitfield seconds. So because we're all here tonight, we don't need a roll call vote. So by a show of hands, all those are in favor? Any opposed? None. So this has been recommended to the full council 4-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I appreciate it. If any of the councilors have any further questions, we'll be more than happy to answer those for you.
Absolutely. So next on the agenda is amending proposal number 16, 2021, which is regarding the rainy day fund transfer. Just a little history on this one. Back in October or November of 2021, we proposed moving funds, the council proposed moving funds to the rainy day fund. And this amended proposal just adds a specific dollar amount to that, which is $1.5 million. And Tyler, did you have anything you wanted to add regarding this one? I think it's pretty straightforward. Okay, are there any questions on? Okay, with that, I would entertain a motion to recommend to the full council.
Wait, I'll make a motion.
All right, thank you. Need a second? Need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And just to remind everyone, and I may have left this off, the 1.5 million movement is to help us shore up the police and fire retirements, to make sure that as retirements come out, and folks retire down the road, we have those funds set aside to take care of the pension and other pieces of funding that may be required when folks retire. All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of recommending to the full council, please raise your hand. All right, so moved, 4-0. So the next we have is proposal number 7, 2022, amending the municipal code of the city of Lawrence regarding employee benefits and overtime. There's been a lot of discussion with this one, so Tyler, I was wondering if you could give us some overview and where we're at now with it.
Counselors, does anybody need a copy or anybody in the audience? Everybody good?
Need it one.
Go ahead, Tyler, when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. So proposal number 7 is again just getting the CBAs and the existing ordinances in line. So that's pretty much the reason behind 7 and 8. So 7 specifically just corrects the vacation time. Although we did notice an issue today that I'm working with Chris on, so she's been real helpful on that. Category B on the second page, that table needs to be revised. So we're going to work on that. But other than that, it looks pretty straightforward, unless, Chris, if you had any follow-ups on that.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear for the public and the record, it's that category B. It should just say consists of all firefighters, and the part that says full-time EMTs and paramedics should be removed. And that is not, I don't know where that came from. Could have been me, doesn't really matter. But that isn't in the current code, so I don't know where it came from. And it's incorrect, so.
For clarification, can you repeat that, please?
Sure, I'm sorry. Councilor Whitfield, on the notes to the table on the second page, so there's a table here, there's category A, B, and C. Under category B, it says consists of all firefighters. You see that? And what comes after that, full-time EMTs and paramedics, needs to be deleted because that's incorrect.
Incorrect. All right,
Yeah.
thank you.
Just more of a typographical thing. So as we go through, we can amend that.
Yeah.
Are there any questions to begin with on this one?
With a correction, even though it's a misprint, can we still move forward with this?
Yeah, as long as, I would recommend that the committee vote on the amendments and then vote on whether to recommend it, and then we have something hopefully
Right.
Fully corrected.
So, Mr. Chair, would you entertain a motion? I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed amendments to proposal number 7.
I'll second.
Okay, so we have a motion to recommend proposal number 7 as amended. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Opposed, none. So this is recommended to the full council 4-0. All right.
Yeah,
Amended part.
Oh, the amendment, oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
That was accepting the amendment.
Accepting the amendment.
Yeah.
Then I'd like to make and then, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to recommend this to full council.
All right, thank you.
And I'll second.
Oh, just kidding.
Okay. We got a motion and a second on that. That's what I get for reading and thinking, talking all at the same time. So all those in favor of recommending proposal number 7 to the full council, please raise your hand. All right, it is recommended 4-0, unanimous. And then this is the one I was thinking about that we've seen a lot of revisions to, which is proposal number 8, 2022, amending the ordinance fixing salaries of appointed officers and employees of the police department and the fire department for the year 2022. Tyler, again, could you give us a high-level overview?
this was a fun one. So same thing with 7. This was to make the CBAs that were approved last year and the ordinances line up. So a couple of pieces on this one. If you're looking at page, am I looking at the right one? I don't think I have the right version, but in this version, what we did was we split out the tech and specialty pays because they're specifically outlined differently in the CBAs. So overall, this is to help line those up. I'm hoping I'm looking at the wrong one. The last one that I saw was correct. So I know there's a lot of these floating around. So I guess what I'd like to do is see what copy do you guys have.
So the one that you had sent out is dated 3-4 at the top. That one's yours. And then the one, I believe, there's another one that came out Sunday, but we referred back to yours. Yeah.
Take a look at this first.
So I wanted to kind of start with yours
Give me 1 second to look.
and then build off from there.
I think the only difference, Chris, I think on ours was section 5.
Yes,
Is that it? Okay.
I believe that's correct.
Okay. So and we're going with the 134. Is that safe to say? Or which one are we moving forward with?
I think that's the question, is which section 5 is correct.
And as you answer that, I was wondering if you could back up a little bit too, because we passed something very similar in October of '21. And this is making changes to the salary ordinance that was passed in October, or the similar ordinance in October of '21 for 2022. If you could kind of just touch, you and I have talked about this a lot, but what's the purpose of the changes and why are we amending?
So when the
that one.
CBA was approved, there was changes, things that I wasn't fully aware of and how to get them in here correctly, so I think I missed those, which is when we started working on that, I think late '21, is the longevity pieces and then splitting out those tech and cert pays. So on the version that the two versions you see before you, that's really what you do see. It's different from past ones, is especially a tech pays being split out, because specialty, there's no limit to how many specialties they can have, and that's like paramedics. You don't limit your paramedics to having that specialty pay, but then the tech pays do have a limit. They get 100% of the first and then 50 of the second and third, with a maximum of 3. That wording's been in there previously, so that wasn't really a big change on that end. Section 5 difference was actually addressing that. So on the 3.6 version, section 5 did not change the amount to 50% for the second and third tech pay. If you look at the fire CBA, it does outline that. LPD is, I think, a little more gray in that section, but when we were working with the unions, that was the section 5 of the one dated 3.4 is the one we went with, and everyone seemed to be on board with that one. I would recommend that one. It keeps things in line with what we've done historically, and it's lines up with the CBA, with both CBAs specifically.
And just to be clear, the one I sent out yesterday, I got from Nick Remmel. That wasn't my change. So I'm happy to do it whatever way, as long as everybody's on the same page.
Would be a question for Nick.
Would Nick or Brandon, would you like to comment on this, or?
Nick's on the fire side. I sent that screenshot to you today. The fire CBA does limit it, so that's a wood. So section 5 right here. So you want to go with this section?
Officers and firefighters qualified
Their CBA
shall be paid the maximum hourly
CBA limits, you only get 100% of the first and 50% of the second.
more than 50
That can be changed. This is getting it.
Okay.
You guys are gonna change it. So then, okay.
Yes.
So then I would go with that, I'd go with the one on 3.6. So,
Could both of you, I don't, for the public, just speak in the microphone to kind of let us know what you're thinking, and, because I couldn't hear the comments, and since this is on, everybody's watching.
So Tyler's correct. Historically, we've done one tech pay at the full amount. The second and third pay is at half that. So people have to have 3, and then anything above that's kind of just good for them. So what we were talking about is the recommendation, and when we talked to Tyler early, was it 2021? It was when we were talking about getting the salary ordinances, I think. We were talking with Bev. We discussed this one, and the portion that we came to was that in order to incentivize these tech pays, and to get more people to get qualifications in these tech pays, we were going to recommend that we do 1,000 for each one of those tech pays, which was kind of a verbal agreement. Now, what we are discussing over here is at any time we can pull those contracts, and we can amend or we can change as long as there's a written agreement.
Okay.
I'm totally confused. I have no clue what he's talking about.
So what he's talking about, and if you don't mind me explaining it to make sure I understand. So if you look at the tech pay on page,
I'm looking at it.
on salary, so originally in the contract, it broke it down to $1,000 annual. inside the contract. What they're proposing is to move it to 40 cents per hour so that the two contracts are on par.
40 cents an hour per tech.
Per tech.
Per certification.
Per certification for 2,496 hours. If you take that times 40 cents, it roughly equals $1,000.
Okay, so basically if a guy has 3 tech, he can make $1.20 more on the hour because of those 3 on every hour? And then does that affect then that means his base pay is $1 more or so an hour. That also would affect overtime. And I mean, his scale just got bigger, right? Has it always been that way, or?
And I think that's the question. So for the police contract, it's always been that way. Is that the way it's understanding? That it's 100% for?
So the way it's been in the past is, so on your first tech pay, you get the full amount, which equals out to about $1,000 a year. On the second and third tech pay, you get half that. So our thought was, when we were looking at amending this ordinance to be in line with the contract, was the officers, or in this case the firefighters, aren't providing 50% of the work. So they're still having to maintain those certifications on, if they do have 3 tech pays on the second and third, but the city was only paying us half that. So in this amendment, what would change is would pay the full amount for all 3.
So a guy would be eligible to make $3,000 more a year.
A total of 3,000.
Yeah,
right now it's 2,000, so it's an extra 1,000 per individual that would qualify. So that's not the entire department. You would have to have 3 tech pays to be able to qualify.
Can you clarify what the, like with the tech, so there's like paramedic, hazmat, I'm talking like firemen, is that correct? Name on that?
If you look at yes. So paramedics included in specialty pay. There's
Okay.
no limit on specialty pay. However, it's going to be very hard to find somebody who has more than 1 or 2 specialty pays.
Okay.
Tech pays are certifications, i.e. like hazardous materials technician, rope technician. These are all like tech classes that they have to take. They also have to, some of these classes they have to recertify for. For instance, like primary instructor, you have to recertify that every 2 years. I have to have.
To be an EMT.
No.
I mean, to be a primary instructor for paramedic or EMT courses. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct, yeah.
But isn't that a benefit to the individual, not the department?
Well, the
I
department.
got a job for a primary instructor today.
Well, we can talk after this.
But I'm just saying, I'm putting it out there like that's a mark that makes that officer more marketable.
But in order for us to teach, in order for us to teach classes,
I know.
we have to have a primary instructor, and we have to have multiple primary instructors. I think at this time we only have, and Chief Dow's still back there. Do we only have?
We're producing our own paramedics then?
Do we only have 2 or 3? How many firefighter primary instructors do we have? Just you and I?
When's the last time we had a class?
During COVID. That's how I got COVID, was during that class.
So how often do you throw
A primary instructor class?
EMTB classes?
Every time we hire, I mean, we don't necessarily run the whole thing, but we're an active part of that
So
training.
if I call Homeland Security, you have to register your classes.
It's
Right,
not,
so that I will be able to pull the record to see how many courses are being taught by these primary instructors that we're paying.
right now, we are not hiring enough people in order for us to teach our
Why
own.
am I paying you if you don't have a class to teach? Why am I paying you extra money to be qualified to teach?
I think we're a little off topic.
Yeah,
I'm serious. I mean, if you got certifications and you want us to increase the pay of these certifications and want a primary instructor, I know a little bit about that. That would help our department improve its EMTs and medics and all of that. And it would also be helpful that we wouldn't have to send the people out to some other place to be taught. I'm following
And
you.
I think the reason we've been doing that is to save on overtime, because they would have to pay either Chief Dowd or myself or one of our other civilian primary instructors to come in and teach those classes.
I understand that. I'm just asking how often we teach the class. How often do we host the course?
I think hopefully we would be able to hire a lot more, and if we can hire more, then yeah, we would.
Historically, You're basing this pay off of what you do today, right?
Sure.
So I'm asking you, what do you do today?
What do I do today?
I mean, okay, let me put it this way. I don't want to make it I'm saying, if you are asking us, I'm using this primary instructor as you're saying there's specialty pays, which I totally get. That's the paramedic. That's the stuff on the job. These are the technical things you brought up. You told me roof tech or something, and you brought up primary instructor. That is an instructor to teach the course. I'm just wondering how many classes does Lawrence Fire Department offer on a yearly basis, historically?
Counselor Giles, how many hazardous materials incidents do we have in the city every year?
I don't know. I'm asking about I'm not asking about
Answering your
hazard.
question.
I'm asking,
I have no clue, sir.
and I don't have an answer for you on primary instructor. The only thing I can tell you is that I use my primary instructor quite frequently. I use it more than I would use my hazmat.
You're
Primary
constantly
instructor is the
training,
teacher
right?
class.
Hold on just a second. You're constantly training, correct? Like you guys are training no, that's my answer, my question. You guys are constantly training on shift every day. So the instructors need to come in sometimes to help train these individuals every single day. Your EMTs need to be on board. You need
True.
It is true. My husband's
hold on a second.
I own a training institution
Yeah, and my
that
husband's a
train
fireman.
One second. Let me roll this back a
Yeah,
second.
me too. My husband, this is my life.
Wait a minute.
Okay.
One second.
on you.
I know, but I understand,
Who
but
had the floor?
I want to pause for just a second to clarify a little bit of what we're talking about. The money portion is not changing at all. The 40 cents, that part is exact. We've already voted on that. All you're asking for on parts of it is to change from $1,000 annual to 40 cents per hour, and it works out to be the exact same.
If we go, so that's what I'm trying to understand. I'm just trying to understand. I was trying to understand this change. So we're going from $1,000 per tech is what we've been at.
Right.
We capped it at
For some of them.
First, you got before it was one specialty, you got full-time pay. And then on the 2 and 3, you got, I think he said half or something on your second.
Real quick though, so on number 4 and 5 and 6 and 7, there's no increase. So he could be a quartermaster, public safety driver, hazardous materials, instructor, SWAT medic. He could be all of these things, and the pay doesn't change. I just want to lay that basis out so everybody has the same piece of.
But no, it's important that you said it because I'm trying to. That's the basis of it. Are we making a pay change?
Right.
And if we're making the increase, I'm trying to justify the increase. That's why I'm asking.
And the tech, that's right. And the tech pay portion hasn't changed. Like that's that's the way it's been written for a long time. That tech pay has been written that way. If that makes.
If I could.
Yeah, please, Chief Atalis.
Primary instructor. It's not just for clarity, and I'm trying to help you understand this. It's not just when we host classes. Like right now, we're in a recruit class joined with Carmel. We send our primary instructors up there. They send theirs on here. We share. It's not just the city of Lawrence hosting it. These trainers use their stuff. It's weekly, and Chief Dowd is also a primary instructor. So it's not just hosting classes. That primary instructor is used almost every week. Anytime we do EMS training, there's usually a primary instructor there. And what that does is, like, especially if you have to proctor a test,
right,
or if you host an EMT school, you have to call the state like 30 days ahead of time.
I understand that. I do it all the time.
And get a class assigned.
Yes.
But there has to be a primary instructor in that.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to clarify that it's not just when we host classes. We use that.
But for clarity's sake, because you're saying that, when you host the other classes that you're saying on a weekly, they don't have to be a primary instructor to do that class.
Some do and some don't.
But the classes that have to be registered down at Homeland Security has to be done by a primary instructor. So that's where the confusion came here. I understand you guys are training all the time. I'm saying, but being a primary instructor is a designated role with designated deals mandated through Homeland Security. You know what I mean? And so that's why I was just asking how often. I get what you're saying. It's good to have primary instructors because having teachers in the building, people who are trained, it helps us, period. But I was just trying to say that I thought we were hosting EMT classes. Some firehouses host classes where you could be a outside person and come and pay for that and make money off of it. So when you said I need more more primary instructors, my mind went to how much training are we doing? Are we used,
And we want to get more people involved with the primary instructor because it's kind of like, this might not be the best analogy, but it's kind of like having a teacher and a teacher's aide. They've got more knowledge, they've got more stuff more ability to teach those. And that's why we push for that, because they go to special classes and they have to keep their C to a certain level. So I just want to make sure that's clear, because we use them all the time because it does save, and we share amongst other departments because it does cut our costs down for overtime. So like we send people to Carmel, they send people here, or to Wayne or Fishers, whatever.
Oh, I see.
We share our resources in Marion County and even into Hamilton County, sometimes into Hendricks County. So I just want to make sure you knew that. It's done to help contain some costs sometimes.
Okay.
It's not just here, we share.
I get it. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, please. Councilor Wood.
Do we know how many do we have on staff?
How many primary instructors?
Or just in general?
When we're talking about
the
this,
technical
there's only
pay,
2 of us.
There's 2. Do you plan on expanding?
Would love to expand that.
Okay.
Now, we do have civilians that also carry that certification as well, which helps out as
Have
well.
civilians, okay. And are the civilians being paid out of your budget area?
That is not on this one. So that is on, I don't know which resolution has to do with
This resolution doesn't affect that.
All right, and then, so you're saying that the 40 cents per hour has not changed? We've been at that level for ever?
Yeah.
Let me just say that.
I don't know, as long as I remember, yes.
Okay, so what you're saying then, this technical specialty pay, they can only earn up to, I'm going to use you as an example. And this is for clarity. You could have 5 specialties, but you're only going to get paid up until the 3.
Yes, and
That would be $3,000.
well, historically, it's been 1,000, and then your second tech pay, you got half, and then the third, you got half. So you would only get $2,000, and I would be topped out.
And the reason we wanted to clarify that is because when that police officer or firefighter does that second and third tech pay, they're not doing it at 50%. They have to keep that certification at 100%. So that's why we wanted the first 3 tech pays to be equal. So
Yes.
if Nick's got 3 tech pays, he's not doing the first one 100% and only 50% on the next 2.
Sure, well, I don't expect that.
100% on all 3.
I expect that.
He's got to keep the certification on all 3. So that's why it was fair. And we know we have to cap it at somewhere, and that's why they asked for the top 3. That's
Chair.
In your memory, do you know why it was ever set at 150/50?
You mean
Or-
half? Like,
Yeah.
It's just historically, I mean, I've been with the city for over 33 years. I don't know why it was originally done that way. Historically, they've had money issues, and I think that may have played part of it. But when you look at today, we're constantly changing stuff to get up to date. When you think about it, I mean, I brought this up like 4 years ago. It's just like, because I had more than that also, and it's just like, you still have to go to all the trainings and keep certified at 100%. So it's only fair that you get, but at the same token, you still have to you got to draw limits. I mean, you can't have a guy having 10 certifications paying an extra $10,000. So we get that. So that's why they limited at 3.
Councilor Russell?
Yes. So just for clarity, you're just incentivizing continuing just for the 3 then. So getting the firefighters to want to maintain their certifications to keep the 3, correct?
Yeah, we'd
And
like to
police
get
officers too, right?
Yeah, we'd like to get as many people,
Because not everybody has 3.
certifications. I mean, and like I said, these are certifications they have to recertify for.
For example,
They're going to have to continue
like hazmat.
to use it, yes.
And these are the ones that you went to, you go for that training place that's in Shelbyville. Is that
I
that
don't
same?
know, I am not a hazmat tech.
No, not, you know which one I'm talking about. The one that's there's a place in Shelbyville that
So is
the
that
firefighters go
relative-
to.
Is that relevant to the conversation?
Yes, it
Hold
is
on, hold
actually.
on.
I just have a question and I'm trying to get the answer out. There's a place in Shelbyville that trains firefighters for engineer and
you're talking
hazmat
about-
and stuff.
okay.
And I'm saying, is that the same place with these tech pays that if they get
No,
these
you can go out-
certifications to maintain?
For those classes, those are going to be for more specific, RIT scenarios, stuff like that.
Got it. That's what I was trying to ask. So I apologize if there was confusion. It was just because I do have an understanding because my husband leaves all the time for these and has to go train. So I'm just trying to have an understanding on these technical pays, that I'm also trying to understand this as well, just from a different perspective, because I have a different understanding because I live this every day. So that's why I'm asking this question.
So to take a breath real quick on this one and pull back a little bit, unfortunately, I wish we had the original copy sitting right in front of us so you could have seen the differences. There's not a lot of differences. The salary portions are the same, and most of the text is the same. The main reason, I think, from speaking with both of you, that we've changed, that this is in front of us, is to separate out the specialist pay and the technical pay, and to make it just more clear. It still has all the amendments we put in before, the $1,300 for the uniforms, the longevity bonus is all in there. That one piece is the only slight difference. Do I understand that correctly? So the debate on the amounts has already been settled. That was done in 2021.
Legal
Am I
question. I'm not sure that's entirely correct.
All right,
and I just want to make sure this is clear. I'm looking at your current firefighters collective bargaining agreement that's good through 2024. I have no problem if the council approves this, but I just want to be clear that it currently says the total amount of money each member can get for tactical pays will be $1,500. If what you're saying you want from this ordinance is you want the ability to give up to 3 at full amount, which is $3,000, not $1,500, you need to make sure that's reflected. And I think I heard you say that you intended to amend your contract to reflect that understanding, which was a verbal understanding. I just don't want there, for your purposes, to have a conflict between what we do today and what's in your collective bargaining agreement, because it just adds more confusion.
And I'm confused too, because there is an increase in pay, in money that's potentially earned.
Correct.
That's what I was trying to get to.
Okay.
And I was trying to figure out, if we're increasing the money, just like with anything, what am I getting more for the dollar? And I want to put one other perspective out there, guys, and I'm not trying to be a jerk. But there are times in life, I know I am professionally, where I have to go get certifications and different things, and it doesn't necessarily gives me an exact, I don't get paid every time I get it. It makes me current, marketable, and relevant. Not everything we get, I got to get $1 for it. That's my opinion.
I don't disagree with you.
That's why there's a cap at 3.
Yeah, so the number of...
And, I'm sorry, one other thing too.
Yeah.
My father, I'm gonna use, my mother and my father are both 40-year UAW members. My father was the bargaining chairman for UAW. I remember when the deal was set, you didn't get to open up the contract every 6 months or every year. And so we weren't involved in the contract negotiations at all during this. We were not involved at all. And we approved the deal that you guys came up with, as well as you guys served a long time in the city without a current contract. So if I remember, if I'm correct, you correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't understand why we keep amending a union contract.
So let's do this if you all are fine. So we have 2 versions. The version that the administration provided is on Friday, which does not include the 100, 100, 100. It's 100, 50, 50. It makes all the other corrections. And then we have another one that has the 100, 50, 50, or the 100, 100. Do you understand what I'm saying? I apologize, I got tongue-tied there. It sounds like that's our sticking point. And I have a feeling we could probably pass the one that doesn't have that section edited and get the whole thing out, and then we could come back and amend that part? Or would the administration prefer us to wait and pass a full version after that one section is looked at? Tyler or Dino, Mayor Collier, whichever. We'll defer to your guidance here on that a little bit.
My response on that would be, I don't think I would make a recommendation for you. I think after
Okay.
this conversation, you guys would need to make that decision for yourselves. I won't recommend anything.
Because we, like I said, we have the version that you gave us, which is 150/50.
I mean, whichever you feel is best, I think is the decision you should go with.
Can I ask a question for the controller, please? What's the budget impact, do you know, with this change?
How many people have these? Well, talking 12,000 a year times how many people? I might need to go double check. I don't have that off the top of my head.
$12,000 more per individual?
Or not 12. So you're talking 1,000 times how many people? So I need to double check. I don't think it's outside of our
It's
budget, but I would.
$2,000 more, right?
1,000.
It'd be
One?
Be
Oh,
1,000.
one. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So I need to know the total impact for both departments. I don't have that right now.
I wouldn't feel comfortable making the decision until I knew what the changes were.
I think I asked that question, how many would this affect?
I think the answer on that, the 2 was per shift rather than the total. Was that
It
correct?
wasn't a large number. And then on the legal question, getting back to what you said, if we made the change and it contradicts the contract, which is actually the prevailing law?
Real quick, Chris, I would say, if you wanted to, if the 3.6 version, which has Section 5 allowing for the full tech pay, all 3, there's nothing saying that you couldn't give more than the CBA. So if your question is on keeping in line with it, as long as it's not less than, I don't think there's an issue. But is more than that's your discretion.
It's poor precedent, I can tell you that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just like it to be clean. And then when we're all gone or on vacation or retired and nobody's here that remembers what we did, the documents speak for themselves. But honestly, Mr. Chairman, my recommendation would be to make sure everybody is on the same page and understands the financial impact. It doesn't sound like it's huge, but I'd rather get it right the first time and not have to have them come back than have to keep amending it. And I apologize for confusion, because I was confused as well on the various versions we got.
Yeah, I was hoping we'd have a number, but would either of you know, Nick or Brent, how many this would affect of your officers or?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
Okay.
But I do need to see you, I have a different version of our contract than you do, because mine says $2,000.
Okay, well, I'm just reading from what was circulated with
His
the
is-
resolution that the council got. So if the
I wanna
draft
make sure you
changed after it got signed, that's a whole nother issue.
It's not been changed since it's been signed. I
Okay.
have what was given to me right after.
No, I mean, if the draft changed between we got an unsigned version. That's what was circulated and approved by the council. If what was signed is different, let's figure that out, I guess is what I'll say. Happy to help.
Yeah. Nick, before you sit down, so let's go backwards with it. Let's go backwards with it a little, if you don't mind, Brent.
Hold on a second. Professional courtesy real quick.
Yes, sir.
We're going to be professional, okay? If I'm going to stand up here and answer questions, we're going to be professional.
And I'm not talking, so I am saying, what else is different? There's something different than the signed contract that we have. And so what else is different? So I giggled at it. I'm unfortunate that you don't find what I find funny, but I didn't say anything to you.
All right. Well,
You put it out there and.
Yes, is the contract different than what my
So
attorney said?
here's the thing.
If you go
let's
check
stick
me,
on the,
you check.
hold on a second. Let's take a pause for her a second.
Point of order.
Let me ask my one question.
He's the chair.
Robert Rule of Order. Anybody can.
How many firemen do we currently employ?
Goodness, hold on a second.
83, thank you. How many of the 83 would have 3 tech pays? 25,
Preparedness is
30?
professionalism.
30, let's say 30. So that's 3,000, 1,000 times 30, $30,000.
Correct.
On the same side with police, you have 62 officers, is that correct? Roughly. How many do you think would have
I
halls?
would not even want to guess to say
Okay.
To this board how many
Okay.
officers fall under the 3. But I will say that I emailed every counselor
Yes.
prior to this, months in advance, if you had any questions, and most certainly if that would have been one of them, then I could have got that information from the administration.
So, and then Tyler, with this, as you were preparing this, you felt that the numbers were within the personnel budget that you have and that we voted on in 2022, for 2022.
Correct, and this was a conversation when the CBA was in committee. I think a lot of this was hashed out originally. So at that time.
So at the most, on the high end, roughly $70,000 is what, if it's 40 and 30, it could be what the payroll is. And you feel that that's within the personnel services that we budgeted?
Yes.
That's been budgeted for both of those departments?
Yes, I would feel comfortable with it.
Chief Vitalis, would you feel the same, that amount is within your budget?
Yeah, I'm with these guys. I wouldn't want to speculate, but I would think that's reasonable. And the only thing that when you were bringing up this contract, I never remember the amount of the 1,500 as long as I can remember. It's always, because even if you look at that, the first tech pays 1,000 and your second one is 500.
Right.
The $1,500 doesn't compute. So I could see 1,000 and your 500, which would be 2,000, but I don't know where the 1,500 would ever come in at. It would have to be the 2,000. So there might be a typo in that 1,500, but on the other side of that, just guessing, it would be just a guess. I don't want to go on record saying for sure, but I would say there's somewhere between right around 30, probably firefighters would fall underneath the 3, because it's kind of hard to keep those 3 certifications and do all the trainings, but that would be just a guess on my part, because we've had about a 15 to 16% retirement thing over the last 2 or 3 years. So the new firefighters definitely don't have those 3 certifications.
Sure.
Starting right off. But I would think that you're in the ballpark if you not capped it, but if you said amount between police and fire of 60 or 70,000. I think that would get us pretty close. Maybe a little bit higher, a little bit lower, but I'm guessing it's a little bit on the lower side.
And before we move forward, and I just want to remind, we're making a recommendation to the full council for this to be looked at. So in the amount of time, we're not voting on it if we voted.
Why push this forward? I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but I'm sorry to just interpreting this. The controller had limited conversation with it. He agreed to come back and give us an exact answer. You led them with some leading questions. I still don't feel comfortable with 60, 70. I'm just asking for factual, hardcore, what it is, so that we can make a sound decision and move forward. I first didn't have an understanding. 15 minutes ago, I wasn't even sure that the budget was increased. Now, 15 minutes later, there is an increase, right? That's all I am trying to question, is making sure that we understand exactly what we're doing, because this isn't my money. This is the
So, Councilman Russell and then Ms. Whitfield, if you'd like to make a comment afterwards, please.
So just to go with Counselor Giles, what are the exact questions so we can write it out and give it to, if we are not going to vote on this, what is the question, are we asking?
The verbatim question: how much does this impact how much does this change impact the budget?
So going with that, how many, can we get the answers, if it's not now, in an email as soon as we can? How many people have these certifications that it would affect? So if it's 3, or if how many have 2, how many have 1? So we could see the number, if we need to see the number, and see if it dramatically affects. Is that correct? Is that what you want to see?
You went a little far with the first question.
I'm just asking, is that what you're
wanting to see? That's a little more extensive. The only issue
I think we got it.
I just want to know what it is so that we can vote like we do on everything else, with hardcore facts and not approximation, not approximate.
Thank you.
That's all I'm asking. And I'm asking why. That's it.
Councilman Whitfield.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, I just want to say to public and safety, you have to understand, we truly believe in everything, your service that you do, especially many of us that are working in healthcare, the time, the commitment. I have certifications that I have to keep up. I understand truly. I just want to make sure that we understand, in my opinion, where does this make a difference in the budget, and if we can handle it. If that you get back to us and we can do this, I think that will solidify a lot of questions that we have. Whether it was, I mean, we've had a lot of questions and a lot of different amendments on this, and so it's kind of hard and difficult to follow it when you have like the original, then another update, and then another update, and they're all coming through emails, and then we get here and we have hard copies. So in order to follow it, if there's a way that we can get a clean copy of everything that we need to review and any of those answers, I think that will clarify and make us all feel better with moving forward, at least on my part, because I've got like 5 different versions here.
And thank you. Just a reminder for those coming in, we're still having our Finance Committee meeting, so if you don't mind, just be a couple more minutes. So it sounds like what we'll do is, there was a lot of versions of this going around in email. We'll put this at the very top of the agenda at the mid-month meeting, and we'll go for it with it right at the very top. There's one section that's in question, which is that, what section number is it again?
5.
Section number 5. And so if you could have those questions in print form, and then we'll print out the original and have these side by side so we have something to look at the mid-month meeting. And with that, we'll also deal with the other resolutions that we didn't get to tonight at the mid-month meeting as well. Tyler, do you have any other questions for this from the controller or comments you'd like us to know before we adjourn?
Only thing, Chris, if we could touch base after this, I know there was our conversation about the bonus and how we'd like to address that. So I just want to touch base with you, that's all.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. So just a quick piece on that. I actually did find a PowerPoint presentation that the SBOA had given out at one point. Your salary ordinance does need to have your base pay, bonuses, stipends, needs to have a section there about overtime. So we do know that it needs to be in there. My way was increasing the ranges. We did kind of come to the conclusion we can have a section for the bonus, so we're going to address that, and it would look like at that point we could pull 2 and 3 and get it done in the funding ordinance for ARP. Does that sound correct?
Yes, it does. And just so you know, Tyler, I also spoke with Councilor Chevrolet and forwarded him our exchange, and he was on board with that approach as well.
That's great.
And can I just ask one more question? Because it was brought up and it's on record, is there any way that we can make sure the draft for the contract that we have, that we pass, the version that we have, it is the same, or the version that was explained to us?
Yeah, we'll make sure accurate copies are all put together. I'll double make sure that is put together. So all the copies will be up to date, all the amendment, everything, and everybody will get an electronic and a hard copy.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for your attendance. Meeting adjourned.
Thank you.